Hi, this is Teddy, and you're listening to Teddy Talks, a political series within Two Broads Talking Politics. Today you're listening to Eliza Orlins, soon to be Manhattan District Attorney. Happy New Year! Hi, I'm Teddy, and this is Teddy Talks, a series within Two Broads Talking Politics. I'm here with my assistant, my mom, Kelly. Hello.
Hi, Teddy.
And joining us today is Eliza Orlins, a public defender who is running to be District Attorney of Manhattan. Hi, Eliza, and happy late birthday.
Hi, Teddy. Thank you very much.
So we're going to get right into the questions now. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running to be Manhattan DA?
Definitely. So I have spent my whole career as a public defender. I thought that that's what I would do with my entire life. It was the reason I went to law school. It was the only job I applied for. In the final round interview with the head of my office, he said, "Okay, Eliza, well, let us know if you get any other job offers." And I said, "Well, would that help me get this job?" And he said, "No, we just want to know if you're thinking about taking another job." And I said, "Well, in that case, you should know there won't be any other job offers." It was just all public defender. That's all I wanted to do. And I've spent over a decade, being a public defender and representing thousands of people charged with crimes who couldn't afford to hire a lawyer. And I've seen how our criminal legal system operates in a way that is unfair and unjust and cruel and also doesn't keep us safe. And so I realized that if we want to change the system, we have to change the DA. And that's why I decided to run for Manhattan District Attorney.
How is the criminal justice system rigged for the rich and powerful? Can you give us examples of how that works?
Absolutely. So the way that people talk about our, quote, criminal justice system, you'll notice I don't even call it a criminal justice system. I call it a criminal legal system. Sometimes I call it a criminal punishment bureaucracy because it really isn't justice, certainly not justice for all people. And I say that it's rigged in favor of the rich and powerful and against everyone else, because basically what happens in our system is that those who are wealthy, who are well-connected, who are powerful, don't face the same accountability that those who are poor, those who are people of color, those who are LGBTQIA, those who are, people with disabilities. Those are the people who are hurt worst by the system. And so, the system is working. That's why I say the system is working as it's designed. So, people who are people of color are more likely to be arrested. They're more likely to be charged with a crime. They're more likely to be charged with a felony. They're more likely to have cash bail set. They're more likely to have higher bail amounts set. And this all results in forced plea deals, in longer prison sentences, in the loss of a job, a home, and a person's children. And so that perpetuates this system, means it keeps it going in a way that's really unfair. So for example, I don't know if you heard of Harvey Weinstein. Do you know who that is?
I saw the name on your website, but I don't really know that much about him. I just saw it.
So he was a very powerful guy, very rich guy, in the movie industry. And he was accused of some really serious crimes, of committing serious violent crimes against people. And there was recorded evidence. In fact, one of the women even wore a wire and recorded him admitting that he'd committed these crimes. And the current Manhattan District Attorney decided not to go forward with that case. Now, any one of my clients who'd been charged with something, even without that recorded evidence, the case would go forward. They would be, maybe held in jail. They'd certainly be charged, maybe forced to take a plea. And they would meanwhile lose, when you're locked up, you lose everything. You can't go to work. So you lose your job. You can't then pay your rent. If you're a single parent, you can't take care of your kids and the state takes away your kids. So, he didn't get charged. So for 6 years, he didn't get charged with a crime at all. And then finally he gets charged, because there are big press articles about him and all of these things kind of come to the forefront. And the DA's office finally gets forced to bring these charges. And He comes in, he gets arraigned, meaning they tell him what the charges are. And the amount of bail that's set is an amount that he can pay right up front, that he pays it and he goes home. He does not spend one single night in jail, even though he's accused of a very, very, very serious crime. And he's facing the maximum of a life sentence in prison. Now, my clients who are accused of things that are much, much less serious sometimes get bail set even just a few $1,000s, but it's an amount that they can't pay, even though they're not facing nearly as much time. And they just sit in jail sometimes for weeks, months, or years waiting to fight their case. And, that just shows the difference between someone who's rich and powerful and the treatment that they receive versus what other people receive.
How do you plan to change the criminal legal system in Manhattan so that it works for everyone?
So we need to change it in a lot of ways, but I think the most important thing is that we need to think about all human beings and how we can uplift everyone, how we can take care of the people of New York City, and how we can make New York safer for everyone. And so there are a lot of ways that we need to do that. We need to stop making being poor a crime. So I think there are so many crimes that we charge people with that are the result of poverty, that are the result of someone who's dealing with a mental health issue, someone who's dealing with, an issue where they are using drugs, someone who is experiencing homelessness, or someone, or charging children. And all of these things can be dealt with outside of our criminal legal system. We could think about investing in people and giving them the help that they need instead of just putting them in jail. And so that's what I want to do. I want to say, these are the crimes that we're not going to prosecute. We're no longer going to ask for money bail. So whether or not you go to jail should never be about how much money you have in your bank account. And so when I think about doing all of those things, and we could reduce our jail population by, 80%, and that would actually make our city safer. Because you know what the crazy thing is, that when you lock someone up, even if it's just for a matter of days, you make it more likely that they're going to reoffend or get rearrested. And so when you, in fact, think about, okay, how can we help this person instead of just locking them up? In fact, what we do is make our city safer for everyone.
Yeah. On your website, you say that your crime rates are very low, but the incarceration rates are very high. Why is that, and how do we fix it?
So, crime rates have been going down for years. This year, I think, is a bit of an anomaly. I think the pandemic has, created a situation where a lot of people are feeling insecurity, and whether that be economic insecurity and lots of other things going on. But generally, crime rates have gone down, and incarceration rates, people in jail and prison, have gone up. And that's happening. I think, we call this thing the prison industrial complex. There are a lot of people who make a lot of money because we lock people up, which I know it sounds crazy, right? To think about locking someone up means somebody else is making money. But there are so many different ways in which we profit off of the incarceration of people in this country. And so there are a lot of people who have a lot of interests at stake to continue this system. And I think that we need to fix this by decriminalizing a lot of things, meaning saying that things are no longer a crime. Like, I don't think we shouldn't be prosecuting people or putting them in jail for possessing drugs. Now, I'm not saying everybody should be out there using drugs, because certainly we don't want that. But what we should not be doing is just locking people up for possessing drugs, because for the most part, they're either people who are dealing with addiction issues, or if someone's using something for recreational use, or, then there's no reason that we need to lock them up, give them a criminal record, destroy their life, destroy their family, because we're not helping anybody by doing that. And the problem with, what they call the war on drugs is that it's really been a war on people, and it has predominantly locked up Black and brown people for all these years. And so we need to end that. We need to fix it. And so I think that we can decarcerate, meaning have fewer people in jail, if we start thinking about things like that and saying, okay, these are the things we don't need to prosecute. Let's focus on serious things, harms that are being perpetrated on communities, people who are actually really being hurt, because a lot of those people are not being prosecuted. An example I can think of is, I have clients who get arrested because they steal something from a drugstore. Like they go into a store and maybe they steal a Snickers bar or a pint of ice cream, but something that's worth, maybe $5. And they go to jail for that. Now, I'm not saying that stealing's okay, but what I am saying is, why are they stealing? Well, is this someone who doesn't have enough money for food? Is this someone who is dealing with other issues? But there are people out there who are like, they're the boss. They're the boss of a company, and they're stealing, millions of dollars from all the people who work for them. They're stealing out of their paychecks. They're stealing from so many people. And it's so much more than the $5 that my client stole, but they're not getting in trouble for it. It's again, like the thing I say about like those who are powerful and wealthy don't face the same accountability. So those people don't get prosecuted. And yet the people who steal something for $5 do. But if we focused on, holding the people accountable who are stealing millions of dollars from all of their employees, then maybe people would have enough to go out there and buy their ice cream and do all it, because it's the same people who are getting hurt by these things.
Can you talk a little bit about what latitude the DA's office has in deciding what to prosecute, what not to prosecute? I assume there's way more crime than could ever all be prosecuted. So what does that process look like?
That's a great question, because the DA has so much power. I think it's one of the most powerful elected officials. Oftentimes people don't even know how powerful the DA is, but the DA makes all the decisions about who gets prosecuted, what crimes get prosecuted, what crimes actually get charged, whether or not bail gets set, whether someone has the opportunity for treatment or some other program, and what sentences get sought. And so the DA makes all of those decisions unilaterally, meaning by herself. And I'm going to say herself because I'm going to be elected DA, even though there has never been a woman Manhattan district attorney in the hundreds of years that office has existed.
That's just wrong.
I know. I agree. But the DA makes so many decisions and gets to make those decisions all by herself. So the decisions that are made are so important to so many people's lives. And you could never prosecute all the crimes that occur. So somebody said, well, if the legislature makes something a crime, it's the DA's job to prosecute it. And I kind of said, well, that's not really true, because there are so many things that happen every single day that don't get prosecuted, and that the DA can make those decisions. Like, Teddy, did you know that laying down on a park bench in New York City is a crime?
I didn't know it, but I've seen a lot of movies with people laying down on park benches. So.
Have you ever seen any of them get arrested?
No.
No. And so it's called obstruction of a park bench, and it's an unclassified misdemeanor. And so if you lay down on a park bench, you can be arrested for that. But who gets arrested for it? Well, if I laid down on a park bench, most likely no police officer would ever even approach me. But if they did, they probably would be like, Miss, is everything okay? Are you all right? Because I am a white woman, and that's just not how the NYPD treats white women for the most part. And my clients, on the other hand, will sometimes get violently grabbed off of a park bench, thrown to the ground, face down on the sidewalk, handcuffs behind their back, and taken to jail for the night for laying down on a park bench.
Of course, I assume that you're not being forcibly apprehended for laying on a park bench. Also, in a small way, has to do with you running for DA, because, I mean...
That would be quite a story.
A candidate for Manhattan District Attorney wouldn't be forcibly apprehended for laying down on a park bench.
It would be unlikely, but they don't necessarily know. I mean, I have friends who are, Black doctors who every day, there was curfew in New York City back in June. They put a curfew, and they had to be at the hospital before, overnight shifts. And they talked about being scared that they were going to be stopped. And this is somebody who's a doctor who's saving people's lives in the middle of a pandemic. And they were still scared that the police were going to forcibly arrest them. So I don't think it necessarily has to do with, what position you're running for or what job you have, as much as maybe the color of your skin.
Yeah, I also had two side questions. The first one was, do you get a lot of interviewers, and how many of them are kids? 9-year-olds, to be exact.
I get a lot of interviewers, and you are the first 9-year-old.
I'm not surprised. Now, my second side question is not really a question, but So you were saying about big rich bosses stealing from workers' paychecks. That sounds kind of like a Superman movie I watched once, except it was the hardworking black worker, but he was really the bad guy in the situation, and he became kind of a computer hacking genius, and he stole half a cent from everybody else's paycheck.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people have seen Superman 3, honey.
No, I don't think so, but I'm just saying.
I know, I'm sad I haven't. It sounds like a really interesting plot.
It's not all about that, of course, but yeah, that's part of the plot. One of your plans is to discontinue the prosecution of low-level offenses that are a direct result of addiction, homelessness, mental illness, poverty, or youth. Which kind of offenses are those, and how do you stop prosecuting, and what would that mean?
So on day one, when I start as Manhattan District Attorney, I'll have a whole list of things that are going to be in place for my new office. So it will be, we are no longer asking for money bail, period. That's it. It's over.
So you'll just have a to-do list for what you're going to change?
Exactly. And then we'll have a whole list of crimes that we're no longer prosecuting. And it will include, a number of administrative code violations, trespassing in a park after dark and laying down on a park bench, and drug possession and sex work and other things that are things that we just should not be prosecuting. They shouldn't be coming through our criminal legal system. And so I will just be able to have the power to make a list of those things and tell everyone who works at the DA's office, that's it. Starting today, we're no longer prosecuting these things.
Yeah, that is a pretty big power.
Huge.
So it's estimated that up to 6% of convictions nationally are wrongful convictions. What are wrongful convictions, and how do we know they're wrongful? And what do you want to do about it?
So wrongful convictions are extremely serious. I mean, if you think about the fact that all these people are sitting in jails and prisons who have not been, who are innocent.
Not just a crime that's not particularly bad. They didn't do anything.
Exactly. So, we need to go back and correct all of these wrongful convictions. And it has to be, there's so much injustice in our system. And we've really, it's been horrible to see that all of these people, I mean, even a reasonable estimate is that it's between 5 and 7% of crimes are wrongful convictions. But this is something that even at that low level, but it could be up to, 10%, 12%. If you think about how many millions of people are sitting in jails and prisons in the United States, and that so many of them have been wrongfully convicted, it's so wrong. And so, it's just, it's horrifying to think about all these innocent people who are locked up. And so we need to go back and review all of these convictions. So, there needs to be what's called a conviction review unit. And I want to start that in the DA's office and go back and really look through all of these past convictions and go and make sure that anyone. So for example, there's some police detectives in New York who have been shown to have, falsified evidence, testified in a way that was not true. So lied under oath, even though they walked into the courtroom and said, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. They got on the stand and they lied. They lied about what they saw or about what they knew or about what someone told them or about what happened, or, they lied and people are sitting in jail and prison because of that. And so all of the convictions that they participated in should be reviewed, should be looked at and potentially be vacated.
Those detectives should be the ones sitting in prison. That's against federal law to lie under oath.
It is. It's against state law as well.
Yes, that too.
But that's another important part of my platform. I think that right now there's virtually no accountability for police. And that's not just for the lying, the false arrests, but it's also for, the physical violence.
Forcibly apprehending.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of videos this summer. I don't know if you saw some of them, but at the protests, police officers really being very brutal to people and assaulting them and, in some cases, which is, killing people. And I think there's been so little accountability on the part of, DAs of holding police accountable. And that means that they've really been an active participant. They've been complicit in these big areas of misconduct on the part of the police. And I think that the current Manhattan DA has really used his power to shield and protect police officers instead of holding them accountable. So I will have, police accountability unit, and police misconduct will not be tolerated.
You were on 2 seasons of the show Survivor and 1 season of The Amazing Race. What were those experiences like, and do you think it helped you prepare for running for office?
So I loved Survivor starting when I was 16 years old. And I remember watching the very first season with my family. And I said to my mom, I'm going to be on that show one day. And she said, of course you are, sweetheart. And now she says, be careful what you tell your kids because they believe you. And so I applied as soon as I turned 21 and I got cast. And it was a dream come true. I loved the show so much. So getting to compete on it was so much fun. And everyone calls it a once in a lifetime experience, which for most people it is. And then they called me and asked me if I wanted to come back on the show and have another chance to compete for $1 million. And I said, absolutely. And
twice
so I
in
went
a lifetime experience.
A twice in a lifetime experience. Exactly. And then they called to ask if I wanted to go on The Amazing Race with a friend of mine from Survivor. And so I also said yes to that. Both shows are very stressful. It's really intense. It's very difficult. It's, you're miserable and starving and stressed out. It's not fun in the classic sense of the word fun. It's not just playing a game because
it's novel. It's new.
It is, but it is. That's true. And so in some ways, I think it prepares you for running for office because there are a lot of very stressful situations. Sometimes you can't trust people, even if you think you can. I think also there's a lot of nastiness on the internet, and people write really mean things about you when you're on a television show. And also when you're running for office. So I have a lot of preparation for being ready for all the mean things people are going to say about me. And to be fair, I think reality TV fans are meaner on the internet than political reporters.
Just a side comment here. Their website, Survivor, says the first time you were on there, you were in the final 4. That was really close to winning $1 million, but in the second time, you weren't really that good. We looked.
Except I had a very famous line in the second one. So at least I went out in a blaze of glory, and my line that I said in the episode that I got voted out is still quoted to this day. And it's been over a decade. I was on Survivor twice before you were born.
What was the line?
Well, they bleeped out part of it, so I don't think I'm supposed to say it. It's just a bleeping stick.
Yeah, got it.
But you know what? You should go back and watch. I think you should get your mom. I think now all the seasons are online, so you should go watch. I think you would enjoy it. Survivor's a really fun show,
especially the one with you.
Exactly. Seasons 9 and 16.
Your website says you're a graduate of Syracuse University. What was it like being there, and do you recommend it for kids like me when we're older?
Absolutely. I loved my experience at Syracuse. I was a huge fan of the football team, the basketball team, and there's this big arena there. It's called the Carrier Dome. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing like watching sporting events there. It's just, there's so much energy and it's so exciting and so much fun. And that's really what won me over. So after I got accepted, I went to visit and for an admitted students weekend, and we got to go get boxed lunches and sit on the field in the Carrier Dome, and they put our names up on the big scoreboard, and I looked up and saw my name, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go here. I'm going here, because everyone was just so excited about Syracuse. I was actually in my Syracuse sweatshirt yesterday. I still have a lot of school pride, and I have a cousin whose daughter goes there, and she's in my sorority. And now her youngest daughter just got accepted to SU and is going to go there next year. So it's very exciting. The family tradition continues, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah. How can people like me or her help the campaign?
So we need all the help we can get. We are up against people who have a lot of power and who want to keep that power. And so we need people who can to donate to the campaign, even if it's $1, $5, $20, so they can go to elizaorlins.com. ElizaOrlins.com and make a donation. And we also will need volunteers. We need people to share our stuff on social media and to get involved. And we need all the help we can get. So thank you.
Thank you, Eliza.
It's been a wonderful time.
Teddy.
Thank you for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Dimcast Podcast Network. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.